Okay, so for those of you who don't know, this little product that you're looking at right now may be one of the most popular, hyped up integrated amplifiers in the $1,000 price range. I mean, seriously, there are many audiophiles out there who absolutely love this thing. So today, I'm here to give you all my take on the popular Audiolab 6000a. Now, because this product has been so well reviewed, I'm going to give you just a very short overview. So, in a nutshell, what you're getting with the 6000a is a compact integrated amplifier that uses a traditional Class AB circuit. The power output is rated at 50 watts per channel into 8 ohms and 75 watts per channel into 4 ohms. It's available in two colors, those colors being black and silver. And I have to admit, my first impression of the 6000a is positive. It features unusually good casework for the money. The knobs have a great feel to them. You get this nice OLED screen, and if you're somebody who likes features, it comes jam-packed with them. You get a dedicated headphone amplifier, a moving magnet phonostage, a 32-bit Sabre DAC, you can stream to it via Bluetooth, and you can even use the 6000a as a dedicated preamplifier. And I hear that if you speak to it kindly enough, it'll even make you pancakes. Now, to be clear, I'm not going to go over those convenience features in this review because instead, I want to cut through the hype and talk about how it performs at its best. That way I can identify who it's for, who it's not for, and give you realistic expectations about this integrated should you be considering one for yourself. So having said that, let's go ahead and talk about how it performs. So I'm going to do something that I haven't tried in many years, which is to unpack a complex review of a hi-fi component in just one take without even having planned what I'm going to say beforehand. I'm serious, guys. I literally just turned the camera on, I sat down, and I'm going to wing the rest of this evaluation. So hopefully I'll be able to give you something valuable throughout this process. So having said that, let's kick off this evaluation by first identifying who stands the best chance of enjoying the Audiolab 6000a. Because after having spent some time with it, I now fully appreciate why there's people out there who absolutely love this thing. Because what it gives you is a unique combination of performance traits that are unusual in the $1,000 price range. Which is why, from this point onwards, I will actually begin recommending this integrated amplifier to people who I think will stand the best chance of enjoying it. So, who are those people? Well, in my opinion, it's somebody who says, hey look, I have about $1,000 to spend. I know I want performance that goes beyond what you can get with cheaper gear. And I want my first taste of a true audiophile listening experience. You know, I've seen or read the reviews. You guys talk about balance and control, unforced resolution, refinement. I want that. Only, I want it to be delivered in an unfatiguing way. I don't want bright sound. And in fact, I kind of want something that takes the guesswork out of the speaker pairing, something that has the kind of voicing that should sound good with a wide variety of products to include what I likely own or plan on buying. If that's you, and you have around $1,000 to spend, then yeah, this is probably one of the better choices out there, especially if you're somebody who also values features. Now, who is it not for then? Well, in my opinion, it's for somebody who listens at loud volumes, because let's face it, this is not a large integrated amplifier. So unless you're running power-sensitive speakers from the likes of Klipsch or Tecton, yeah, this isn't really going to be for you. And because the sound of the Audiolab is going to be more neutral in its delivery, it's not going to be for somebody who likes a lot of color in their sound. Whether it's a nice warm sounding mid-range or bright treble, if that's what you like, then there are probably other solutions in the same price range that you would prefer. And that leads me to the detailed summary of what you can expect from this integrated, starting with the overall character. I've heard this product described as sounding warm and laid back, and while I get that, I actually think the voicing strategy is more neutral in its delivery. But because this is a market that's dominated with products that feature tilted up treble and a lot of different color, that classic V-curve sound, by comparison to its competitors, yeah, you know what? It actually does sound a little bit laid back. Now, I will say that there is this restrained quality to it. A lot of products allow your speakers to project in a forward way out into the room, whereas this one doesn't. The sound is going to be more limited to the physical location of your loudspeakers. Now, you get big imaging, you get really nice soundstage depth, but it's not going to project or allow your speakers to project in a forward way like other competitors will. There's kind of a trade-off to that. And that leads me to the treble. So the treble is going to be the star of the show here just because, unlike most of its competitors, it is not tilted up. Now, I don't think it's rolled off, it's just more neutral in its delivery. And the cool thing about the treble is that it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You can effortlessly hear the detail within the recordings, whether it's at very low volumes or even at higher volumes. And the great news is the spatial separation. In other words, when the music gets complex, it's very easy to pick out every little detail within the music or within the soundstage. It doesn't sound all jumbled up together, which is what I think a lot of people want when they're spending $1,000 on an integrated amplifier. That's a part of the proper hi-fi listening experience. Yet it's not over the top with it. You get that information without having to sacrifice listening fatigue. I think the treble is something most people are going to be okay with. In fact, I've come to find that when it comes to speaker matching, a lot of people who have brighter sounding speakers like Klipsch, Vera, Monitor Audio, pretty much anything Bowers and Wilkins, some Focal speakers really like this because unlike a lot of competitors, it doesn't double down on high frequency information. Again, the treble, nice and neutral, and when you compare it to other products in this range, it's actually rather easy on the ears. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the mid-range. The mid-range is where things get a little bit polarizing here because what you get out of the mid-range is incredibly clear and articulate, but it doesn't really have much color to it. I wouldn't describe it as warm, I wouldn't describe it as thin. Some people may describe it as cool depending on what your reference points are, but to me it's very much an input-output situation. It almost sounds like the electronic amp version of a studio monitor. Some people are going to really like that. Some people are going to wish that there was just a little bit more color and body to the sound. And then let's move on and talk about the bass. The bass is exceptional, especially for a small Class AB integrated amp. It has the kind of control that you would get out of a Class D amp, only it has a pretty good amount of power and tone to it for something its size. Again, I don't think people are going to complain about the bass, even if you're running speakers that use thick drivers and could benefit from something that has that nice control. Dynamic output is going to be okay. Nothing amazing. I mean, very few products in this range are. I don't think too many people are going to complain about it though. And otherwise, just overall, you're getting a very balanced, refined, unforced clarity that I think a lot of people would like for something in this price range. But it's not going to be perfect, so let's go over some of those caveats. So the caveats are mostly going to be subjective in nature, based mostly off of my taste, quite frankly. The first caveat I have is going to be the mid-range. I wish there was just a little bit more fullness, a little bit more body to the sound. It, to me, almost sounds dry and if not even a little bit hollow sounding in that regard. And then next, I do wish that the sound was a little less restrained and would allow the speakers to project in at least slightly more of a forward or natural way. There are times to where I feel like the sound is just too held back. It's like somebody is literally physically grabbing the sound wave as it leaves the speaker and they're like, no, come back over here. This is British restraint, right? But again, this is all subjective taste. There are going to be people out there who either have not experienced that or they have experienced it and they even like it. So before I wrap up this review, let's go ahead and talk about the kind of speakers that stand the best chance of pairing up well to an Audiolab. Well, the good news is because of its voicing, you get a mostly neutral presentation that's not over the top in any way. You get something that lends itself well to a huge variety of speakers. And I think some of the better matches out there would be, as I mentioned before, more forward sounding speakers. If you don't want something that'll double down on the treble information, this is a great way to go. And there's also kind of an adverse, or not adverse, but a converse side to that, which is if you're running speakers that have a strong warm sound to it and you think is a little too much of a good thing, like say the ELAC debut series, or debut reference I should say, or the Polk Audio Reserve series. Maybe you think that the mid-range and the bass is a little too thick and you need something that'll tighten it up and give it more clarity. This is going to be a fantastic match. In fact, that probably would be one of the better matches I can think of for the Audiolab. It's not going to be great for every speaker though. If you're running like Magnapans or something that requires a lot of power, this probably isn't going to be the best match for you. And if you're somebody who maybe you have a set of speakers and you wish that you could find an amp that would give a fuller sounding mid-range, this probably wouldn't be a good choice for you either. But for most people, it's actually a pretty easy thing to recommend. And that leads me to my final thoughts. So look, here's the deal, guys. On a very personal level, do I think the Audiolab is the giant killer that some people have made it out to be? No. I definitely think there's competition out there. Like say the musical Fidelity M2SI. It sells for around the same amount of money. In fact, it used to sell for a lot less, and while it doesn't have the same features, it's competitive in terms of resolution. It actually has a more dynamic sound with similar bass control, but, you know, you get a different flavor. The musical fidelity is going to have that typical tilted up treble. So it's just a matter of picking what you want. Do you want more of that balanced and slightly more refined and neutral sound, or do you want that more energetic and dynamic sound, something that allows your speakers to project in a forward way? There's no right or wrong there, but again, for around the same amount of money, you have a choice to make. And then lastly, let's talk about the Iota VX SA3, since I know some people are going to ask about that. How do they compare? Well, I would say that objectively, the Audiolab is going to be better in pretty much every single way. Clarity, even at low listening volumes. The balance between the treble, the mid-range, and the bass is going to be better. Bass control is going to be better. Mid-range clarity is going to be better. I mean, just all up and down the board, it's better, except you may still prefer the sound of the SA3 because it has more color to the sound. The mid-range has that cream filling, that kind of, you know, full sound. The bass, although not nearly as clear and articulate, has a kind of strong, warm character to it. And the treble, even though I never described the treble of the SA3 as being inherently bright, it's definitely not as refined as the Audiolab, but it has that character. You may prefer the character. I think most people would honestly go with the Audiolab if given the choice, but, you know, even I myself would probably go with the SA3 under certain circumstances, so it just depends. But otherwise, look guys, it's a really good integrated amplifier, and if you're somebody who's looking for a taste of that audiophile experience, I'm talking about a very strong taste, but you don't want that fatiguing sound, and you don't listen at loud volumes, and you know you want just a simple solution, right? This is something that's definitely worth checking out, especially since it's now sold through major retailers that offer 30, 60-day trial periods. Definitely worth checking out to see if it works for you. Anyways, guys, that is going to be my one take on the Audiolab 6000a. It's a little bit rough, but hopefully you got something out of it. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.